Good morning. We're going to get started, so if you can take your seats, please. Bob. That's my only one. Don't lose it. I mean, yeah, don't take them. Yeah, that's yours. No worries.
All right, please take your seats. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, auxiliary. How we doing? Everybody have a good time last night? All right, for those of you who joined me on the dance floor, you earned your auxiliary merit, fitness merit badge, so woohoo! That's it. All right. Everybody had a good time last night. It was a lot of fun. We need that after a long week of training. So I reconvene the meeting of the National Board. I would typically call for a visual confirmation of a quorum, but since we have members watching online, my executive assistants will call the roll and make some introductions. As a reminder, please silence your phones during the meeting.
Right.
Ms. Kelly?
Thank you, Commodore Kirkwood. We encourage all members to start every meeting with a safety briefing. In case of emergency, there are 9 AEDs throughout the hotel. The closest location is downstairs in the atrium lobby at the front desk. We have 2 emergency exits behind you and 2 behind me. So if there is a fire, use those. If you're walking in the front of the room, there are cords down with rugs over top of that, and it's kind of uneven, so just watch your step if you're walking through the front of the room. It is now my pleasure to introduce the head table. Please hold your applause until all are introduced. First, we have the 37th National Commodore, Mary Kirkwood. To her right, Rear Admiral Wayne Arguin, the Assistant Commandant for Prevention Policy. To his right, Commodore Linda Merriman, Deputy National Commodore, Information Technology and Planning. Continuing to her right, Commodore Sonny Thatch, Deputy National Commodore, Atlantic Area West and Mission Support. And to his right, the Chief Director of Auxiliary, Captain Brent Schmadicke. On Commodore Kirkwood's left, Vice National Commodore Pat Ferry. To his left, we have, making sure I've got him in the right order on here, Deputy National Commodore, Atlantic Area East and Recreational Boating Safety, John Krogman. To his left, Commodore Michael Borzov, Deputy National Commodore, Pacific Area and Operations. And to his left, Acting Immediate Past National Commodore Alex Molesky. I will now introduce our Assistant National Commodores. Assistant National Commodore, FORSCOM, Tom Monis. Assistant National Commodore, Response and Prevention, Rick Saunders. Assistant National Commodore, Recreational Boating, Chris Wilson. Assistant National Commodore, Information Technology, Amanda Constant. Deputy Assistant National Commodore Finance, Bart Knapp. Assistant National Commodore Chief Counsel, Bruce Kelton, here. Assistant National Commodore Admin Services, Rich Milichek. And President National Association of Commodores, Commodore Bob Schaefer. From the Coast Guard Headquarters, Chief Director's Office of the Auxiliary, Lieutenant Kelly Richters. YNC Yolanda Priera, I think I said that right. Master Chief Jason Hermes. Commander Steve Milto, U.S. Coast Guard retired. Commander Steve Keel, U.S. Coast Guard retired. And Mr. Randall Ellington. Also, if you are a DIROCS District Director or an OTO, will you please stand? Thank you guys for all, and ladies, for all you do. We appreciate y'all. From Coast Guard Museum, we have Captain Wes Pulver, U.S. Coast Guard retired. From Coast Guard Mutual Assistance, we have CEO Captain Brooke Millard, U.S. Coast Guard retired, CFO Melissa Bell, and Volunteer and Outreach Coordinator Valerie Stanley. We also had the Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary with us this week, as well as the Mauritania Association of Diving and Marine Rescue. And thank you to our 30th past National Commodore Jim Vass for being with us this week as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's give everybody a hand for being here. All right, we'll get to our first speaker, who needs no introduction because he's one of probably the most consistent people that come to these training events we have. It is now my pleasure to introduce Admiral Wayne Arguin, the Assistant Commandant for Prevention Policy. Rear Admiral Arguin serves as Assistant Commandant for Prevention Policy and is responsible for the development of national policy, standards, and programs promoting marine safety, security, and environmental stewardship. 3 directorates carry out the mission: inspections and compliance, marine transportation systems, and commercial regulations and standards. Programs include waterways management, navigation, and boating safety, ports and facilities, merchant mariner credentialing, vessel documentation, marine casualty investigation, commercial vessel investigation, and port state control. Rear Admiral Arguin is is a 1992 graduate of the Coast Guard Academy, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering. And in 2001, he earned a Master's of Science degree in Naval Architecture and Marine Engineering from the University of Michigan. Prior to his current assignment, Rear Admiral Arguin served as the Director of Inspection and Compliance, also at U.S. Coast Guard Headquarters. His previous operational assignments include Sector Commander, Sector New Orleans. He also served as Executive Officer of Marine Safety Office, Memphis, Tennessee, and Prevention Department Head at Sector Lower Mississippi River, where he coordinated waterways management, vessel inspections, mariner licensing, and marine casualty investigations on the Lower Mississippi River and its tributaries. In 1994, Captain, okay.
Good morning.
That's a lot.
She told me I had 45 minutes. I said, well, read the long bio. Well, good morning, Mary and the entire leadership team. As was mentioned, I've been here several times. I'm probably one of the only flag officers that is still in its current position with some of the change that's happened, but I am absolutely honored to be here and talk through some of the things that are happening within the prevention community, and as well as talk about some of the changes that we expect to see with Forces 928 and where the service is going to better deliver for the American people. And I've had a lot of opportunity to talk to folks, and you know, there were questions. Probably the number one question is, how does the auxiliary fit into that vision? And I will certainly hone in on a couple of things. We talked about it a little bit during the flag board yesterday about how at least I and DCO Admiral Schofield see the important work that the auxiliary will be doing in the future. But also talk just a little bit about sort of what's happening with respect to the Coast Guard and sort of the model that they're using. Maybe give you some insights if you want to go look up some of the structural things that are happening within the service. I'll tell you right now, Vice Commandant's coming in, and he probably has the closest bead on where we're going, and that's by design. We are moving quickly to reorganize the organization to better deliver services to the American public. When I was here last year, Admiral Gaudier and I talked through sort of a mind shift when it comes to contested logistics. And we talked about the importance of the auxiliary during World War II and how the auxiliary helped the Coast Guard, helped the nation get after that particular problem set. And I would say that threat is still there. We are preparing to support the marine transportation system to be able to deliver the force that we need at a time of our own choosing. And the auxiliary will play an important role in that effort. I don't anticipate you're going to be riding horseback along the beach, but we are going to be using eyes and ears throughout the entirety of our 95,000 miles of coastline, and each and every one of you and all of the folks that you work with have a part to play in that. You'll hear a lot about Forces 928, and sort of a couple of the buzzwords from Forces 928. Number one, it's all about service delivery and outcomes. And so we are working as a team to try and figure out what are those metrics that we're going to be able to use to describe those 3 buckets. So secure and defend our borders, ensure the free flow of commerce, and then be able to effectively manage in contingencies and crisis. And as we work through what those different metrics look like, it's all about service delivery. And so when I think about that from a prevention perspective, we do inspections, we do investigations, we issue credentials. How can we streamline our processes to be more effective, more efficient at delivering those services? I think the same thing about what goes on within the auxiliary. How can you be more effective, deliver vessel examinations in a creative, different way, reach more people? And so there's a lot of things that I'm going to ask you to think differently about the way you do your business. Not change the essence of what you do, but maybe change how you do it so that we can be more effective. When I think through contested logistics and I think through sort of the idea that we're going to be in a situation where we're going to be, right now the marine transportation system really works on a free market environment. We don't have nefarious actors that are trying to disrupt that flow of commerce, disrupt our way of life. And it's been probably since World War II where we've had to deal with that particular scenario. Your active duty components are right now working through a concept called Trident Forge, which is how do we ensure the integrity of the marine transportation system throughout its entirety, whether it's I need to move Navy assets or I need to bring in Mardi Gras beads. How do I keep that flow of commerce going when that system is challenged? And so your local sectors are working through what's that force complement that I'm gonna need? How do we deal with that from a contingency perspective, but also how do we deal with it from a crisis? We're really good at hurricane operations. Anybody that's been in the Gulf of America knows right now we're sort of at the peak, and we're really good at being able to shut down a port, to protect that port, move cargo where we need to do it, to protect those assets. We can hold our breath for a little bit, hurricane passes, and then we reconstitute. How do we do that for a year, 2 years, 3 years at a time? That's gonna be a challenge. That is gonna absolutely strap our workforce. And so we've got to figure out a different way of managing that particular risk. A couple of the items that are sort of within the prevention portfolio that are sort of enduring. Maritime cyber, right? The world is getting more complex, more interconnected. Everything. I've got 2 phones. Everybody's got at least a phone, I think. Everything is now interconnected. And we live by that, right? I can't check into my flight without having something on my phone. And so if that gets disruptive, life gets a little bit more challenging. So how do you prevent that disruption? How do you maintain that flow of information? And when ships start to have that same challenge and somebody wants to interject themselves into that and start causing problems, we've got to have the ability not only to detect that, but then to ideally prevent that particular adversary from causing that type of harm, and then be able to bring that system back up. So resiliency, building resilience. I don't think anybody that lives in that cyber world thinks about we can 100% defend that network and prevent every bad thing from happening. It's not if you're gonna have a cyber attack, it's when you have a cyber attack. Can you very quickly bring that system back up so the impact of that attack is minimized? And if you can minimize the attack, then you're not exactly gonna be the top target. And so we're working, I've got an entire team that's working right now to figure out, not only on a rulemaking side, what are those things that need to be put in place to raise the bar to protect those networks, but then what should we be doing as we go forward to incrementally sort of keep pace and get ahead, ideally, of adversaries and their opportunities to impact that network. So what do I think? Well, I'll just briefly touch on Force Design 28. The idea behind Force Design 28 is we're going to centralize our entire operations around those 3 buckets. So secure, defend our borders. And our borders include all of our ports, where you operate. We need to make sure that people that are operating within our ports are there legitimately, that they're doing things that we expect them to do. When we typically think, you see on the news, you see our Coast Guard cutters that are off, sort of out, pushing our borders out further. Every one of those 95,000 miles needs to be protected and defended. The flow of commerce piece, right? Delivering the force from a sector perspective so that we can effectively maximize the efficiency of that port. There is not a country in the world that doesn't survive without the flow of commerce. International commerce is the lifeblood of any country that looks to project power. And if you don't have those treasures that come in through an economy, you aren't able to build and exercise influence and project power around the world. So it's vitally important. If you want to get the average citizen sideways, just think back to when Long Beach had a port disruption, right? People have become comfortable, and I probably did it last night. I ordered something on Amazon, I expect to be there tomorrow, right? That expectation for immediate delivery of services, when that gets disrupted, that causes all kinds of problems, and that'll be a political challenge that you will have to deal with. And so ensuring the safe and efficient and reliable flow of commerce throughout the entire logistics chain is absolutely going to be critical. And then that contingency piece, that is not only just dealing with hurricanes and floods, that's dealing with nefarious activities. And so how do you secure those networks to ensure that you are able to provide resilience in that system is absolutely going to be what the Coast Guard's focused on. What you didn't hear me talk about was boating safety, the things that are your bread and butter. So if we're going to be focused on those big three buckets, where do you think I'm going to need somebody to cover down? I'm going to need the auxiliary even more today to cover down on recreational boating safety, to ensure that the people that have the opportunity to take advantage of the waterways and recreate and enjoy things on boats, that they're able to do so safely and effectively. Because if they don't, if they're not educated, what do you think happens, right? They get sideways and they become a customer from our search and rescue perspective. And that's going to take away resources that are going to be focused on those other three areas. So education up front is going to be a pivotal thing that we're going to be expecting you to not only do that you're doing today, but probably do a lot more of. The other question that had come up is like, so what else can we do from an auxiliary perspective to help as the Coast Guard moves forward? I asked that question of you. When I was here before, and maybe the 2 or 3 times before, I said, look, you guys have a wealth of talent, wealth of experiences. Think through those problem sets that we're thinking through, and if you've got ideas on how not only the auxiliary can help, but how you've got ideas on how the Coast Guard can better do their job, don't be a mouse in the corner. Be vocal. And I know many auxiliaries are not wallflowers, right? You guys have no problem coming up and telling me how we should do our jobs, right? Please continue to do that. I need those ideas, right? Because if there's one big change that's happened with the change in the administration, the expectation is we eliminate bureaucracy, right? Let's flatten the organizational decision-making, get those good ideas up for decision makers and take action on those decisions, yes or no, and then move on to the next thing. We have become very bureaucratic, and eliminating all of those extra layers in decision-making is something that is absolutely happening right now. Commandant Admiral Lunde is the operational commander. That is a big change from where we were 6 months ago. He takes regular tactical briefs each day and is making tactical decisions about where we're going to put assets and how we're going to position our forces. That used to be the area commanders that did that work. And so we're in the process right now of restructuring headquarters to be able to manage that workload. But then we're also going to be looking at our field delivery. And so in October, we're going to be looking at how we're developing the force, but also what are those concepts of operations that are going to be more focused on delivering in those 3 buckets. And so I fully expect that you're going to see a different Coast Guard, when I say different, I don't think we're going to blow up sectors. I don't think we're going to necessarily blow up districts. But how we deliver those services are absolutely going to change. And there will be management controls put in place to ensure that we are delivering for what the American public expects. And so there will be lots of churn. And that's not a bad thing, right? It is good to every once in a while take a step back and say, you know, where can we redefine the way we do business to be more effective? And if I could give you a place to look to understand sort of how we're going through that, there's a gentleman that works as a CEO, runs a company called CEO Works. He's a prior Coast Guard officer. His name's Sandy Ogg, and he is consulting with the Commandant, with Mr. Planky, and he has a wealth of knowledge, years of experience at going through companies and basically taking them down and refocusing their efforts. And so we are following sort of his model of think big, act small, and move fast, right? So big ideas, Companies fail when they try to restructure, when they come up with all the good idea fairies and they try and execute on all of them, and then they get none of them done. And so you'll see some restructuring where we are making some business decisions, moving out quickly, demonstrating effect, which builds momentum, which ultimately then leads to that change that you want to see. And if you want to know whether or not the American public believes in the Coast Guard, all you have to do is look at $25 billion reconciliation. They are investing like no time in the entirety of the Coast Guard, $25 billion to restore capability, to provide us enhanced capability, both in our aircraft, our shore forces, and our cutter forces. I think that is, not only is that a little bit like the dog catching the car, right? We've been screaming, we never get the funding that we need. Now we've got the funding, now you better execute. And so the first part of Force Design 28 was to restructure our entire acquisition program so that we are more streamlined to be able to execute on those mission sets, bringing in brand new aircraft, not secondhand Navy aircraft, buying more cutters, more capable cutters. The thing that's probably going to be most challenging, and I'm absolutely going to need your help, bring in 15,000 more Coast Guard men and women, both on the active duty side, the civilian side, and I think that also means we're going to have to bring in more auxiliaries, right? And the work that you've done, I think 3 years ago we were talking about recruiting is number one. We've got to we are absolutely filling the bus at Cape May. And that's largely in part to the work that you've done to spread the word, right? And so we're going to need more of that. We're going to need more of your stewardship of engaging with the public and ensuring that they understand the great work that we do and that people want to be part of this organization. And they want to be part of your organization, right? You are all carrying the water for what the Coast Guard, a lot of people see you guys and they go, hey, Air Force? They do the same thing to me, right? That's your end to be able to say, no, I'm Coast Guard Auxiliary or Coast Guard, right? And then talk about the things we do. The bartender last night, what are you here for? It's like, Coast Guard, what's the Coast Guard? It's like, I'm constantly amazed that people don't understand what we do and how we matter to the American public. But there's always an opportunity to do that. And bringing in 15,000 people right now in our current budget for FY27, we're authorized 4,377 billets. So in 2 years, we're gonna have seats for that. Right now is the time for us to be figuring out how we're gonna fill those positions and then what we're gonna do with those positions. And I think the auxiliary has a huge role to play in reaching the right people that we wanna reach and then getting them in the door, whether that's through AIM or whether that's through boot camp. We're actually considering opening up a session point because we filled the bus so much. Cape May cannot handle any more folks going through Cape May. We've got to have a second place where we can bring people in to meet that demand signal. A couple of other things. I've got 4 minutes. All right. Take as much as I can drag it out. You did say 45. I can go on forever on this stuff. Restoring American maritime dominance. You've seen a number of different executive orders that have come out from the White House. That is something that is 100% in my wheelhouse. And so the president has said, we will restore American shipbuilding capacity. We will bring more mariners in. We will restore the ability for American shipping to sort of catch back up. It's going to be really challenging to catch back up with China. They've got a pretty good head start. But one of the main focuses in that area is eliminating unnecessary, deregulatory effort, eliminating bureaucratic sort of processes. And so my team has been going through all of our regulations. We've got about 400 different areas where people have said, I don't like that, make it go away. Some of that I can make it go away because it is duplicative. Others, I don't have the choice, it's a law and I don't get to go down that path. But I also see the deregulatory effort within the auxiliary. We need to find a way to make it easier to be an auxiliarist, right? And you heard yesterday, Admiral Schofield said, you know what, I'll take that. And so the team here will absolutely be identifying those things that are burrs under your saddles, the things that are gonna make it more challenging for you to be a volunteer. I can't give you more pay, although didn't you say you put add another zero to what your paycheck is, and but there are administrative things that we should be able to fix that'll make it easier for you to do the job that you do selflessly, and we're working through those. Some of them, again, I don't have complete control over, but the things that I do have control over, the Commandant's been very clear. We need to move out on those quickly. So if it's a policy issue that we need to get adjusted, we're going to move out on that. And you heard my boss say that absolutely he's committed to doing that. His boss will be here tonight, have the opportunity to tell him. Right now, there's a lot of people that go talk to people senior in the White House. They go, I want the Coast Guard to stop doing this. And that goes VFR direct right to me. I got 3 emails yesterday about that. And so that feedback loop is absolutely being tracked. And so I'm committed to ensuring that we can find ways to make it easier for you to do the job that you do so that you can focus on that job and not focus on the administrative things that detract from that. So please be vocal on that and let us know what we can do. I will go at, well, you gave me another 6 minutes. Maybe I won't take that much time. Organizationally, so the Coast Guard, we've reduced our flag corps by 25%. And that can be challenging, right? Fortunately, I was able to continue. But I think that's an indication of, from a leadership perspective, that we're going to push decision-making down in the organization to flatten the organization. And one thing that has not changed is we still have an Office of Boating Safety. Captain Confer was here. He replaced Captain Beach in the 5PC position. And so we will have some continuity there to ensure that your needs are being considered and taken care of. One final point, I think I mentioned it yesterday, questions about C schools and budgets. Reconciliation with $25 billion does not allow us, that's all buy stuff, right? That's not operate stuff. And so what that does for us is it allows us things that were in our regular budget that we were going to buy stuff with can now be put into the reconciliation bucket. That opens up more room in our budget to buy things like parts and buy training. And so, again, Admiral Schofield made it very clear that he was going to take a look at how we can open that aperture a little bit more and think differently. To me, well, that's one of the benefits that we can provide you, is providing you with access to training. And I know that that bucket had dried up, and so we're going to look for ways to open that up. I can't tell you how much we can open it up, but it is an imperative that we'll be considering to look for ways to be able to provide more of those opportunities in the future. So I think maybe I'll close there. I'll be here tonight. Right before I close, I do want to take a moment to just talk about the leadership team that you currently have in place. I think Mary and the team have done a phenomenal job in really challenging situations. Unexpectedly, guess what? You're the boss. Figure it out. That does not go unnoticed, right? And I think your leadership team and your leadership in particular, your care and feeding of the entire organization, I'm personally very thankful for that. I know it wasn't easy to sort of pick up the pieces and now, all right, figure out how to keep this organization going so that they can do the things that they do. I know the passion that you have for the job, and it's infectious. It wasn't infectious enough to get me out on the dance floor yesterday.
I tried.
I had to take a phone call or some big policy that I need to talk about for about an hour. But I do appreciate your leadership and your leadership team's willingness to jump in, deal with some really challenging problem sets, and continue to keep the focus on the men and women of the auxiliary, and then keep providing us with the feedback that we need to support you. And so I absolutely look forward to seeing you tonight and talking with, and again, please talk to the Vice Commandant. He's very approachable. He's a big guy, but he's a very approachable guy. He is very much interested in understanding what are some things that we can do from a service to make your jobs a little easier, a little more effective, and very much look forward to visiting with everyone today and tonight. So thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Ogren. It is now my pleasure to introduce Brooke Millard from the Coast Guard Mutual Assistance Office. She is the CEO. At a 501c3 Coast Guard Mutual Assistance Office, a Official Relief Society. In 2024, CGMA delivered $8.5 million in grants and interest-free loans to support the financial resilience of the Coast Guard community, and in doing so, bolstered national security. CGMA is entirely donor-funded. Brooke joined CGMA following a remarkable 21-year active duty career as a cutterman and rider in the Coast Guard. With 12 years at sea, including 2 commands afloat, Brooke led her crews on deployment supporting Homeland Security missions such as migrant and drug interdiction from Greenland to Colombia, work highlighted by Fox News and CNN. She holds an MA in English from the University of Maryland and has authored 17 articles and served as speechwriter for the Commandant. A former executive fellow at the U.S. Naval Institute, she now pursues her MBA at Georgetown. Brooke is a Coast Guard spouse and mother of 2. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good morning. All right. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for serving. Thank you for being here. I was actually at the Coast Guard Academy the last 3 days, and for the first time in 7 years, we were able to present to the Academy cadets. And I asked the group, there's over 1,000 of them, I was like, how many of you have heard about Coast Guard Mutual Assistance? And out of 1,000 cadets, about 20 people raised their hands. And I imagine today, I'm so thankful that we are here and we're able to talk to you about CGMA, because you are going to tell your flotillas and your districts all about the good work that we do, because we have been supporting Coast Guard Auxiliary for many years. So thank you for this opportunity. So, Coast Guard Mutual Assistance, I'm going to give you, I have about 19 minutes to give you a quick rundown about who we are, what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. So we are the official relief society of the U.S. Coast Guard. Every service has just one. If you served in the Army, your relief society was Army Emergency Relief. If you served in the Navy, it was Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, Air Force Aid Society, and Coast Guard Mutual Assistance is it for the Coast Guard. We are actually codified in congressional law, 10 U.S.C. 1033, and it says that we are the designated military service. We are the designated relief society for the service. Anyways, we help our own, and for many years we've been doing this. Auxiliaries are part of our family, so we help active duty, civilian employees, reservists, retirees, and auxiliaries. What makes us the official relief society is our governance. So unlike any other Coast Guard philanthropic organization that I'm familiar with, our chair is our commandant. Our president of our board is Admiral Zita Merchant, who just took over workforce management. We are entirely representative of the community we serve. We have an auxiliarist, Mike Phillips. He's out of Cincinnati. He serves on our board. He's on our finance committee. And this governance is really unique because although I am not a government employee, I work for the Coast Guard. And the person who hired me was Admiral Raymond, who was the Assistant Commandant of Workforce Management prior to Zita Merchant. So it's such a strange dynamic, but as a CEO of a nonprofit, my job is to make sure that our staff, of a small staff of 15 of us, can support the Coast Guard nimbly. So there's just a couple of dates there for you. 1924, that's when we were formed. It started off as a spouses organization where people were passing the hat in order to support Coast Guard members who were coming back from World War I. In 1941, Admiral Weishi, during World War II, made it a Coast Guard quasi-element, staff element, where it was run by active duty members to distribute funds to those who needed it. And then 1981, that's when our services became open to auxiliaries. Our mission is to help our own, and we provide grants and interest-free loans to support members going through financial challenges so that they can help keep their mind on mission. So why CGMA? Who here has heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Hey, Tyler Kelly is in the front row. Tyler Kelly used to teach this, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and organizational behavior and leadership. And this theory is actually what everyone in the Coast Guard learns. If you are an E5, you go through Lamb's course, you learn it. If you're a cadet at the Coast Guard Academy, you learn it. And this is what we see in action. So to summarize, Tyler, I'll do my best. in order for a human being to thrive in their work, in their home life, on their sports team, they need to have basic needs met before they get there. And those foundational needs are, you need to have food in your belly, you need to have a roof over your head, and you need to probably have gas to get to your place of work, right, or a vehicle to get there. Then you need to feel safe in your environment. You need to have psychological safety, physical safety to be there. We need to feel a sense of belonging, that people value who we are and value our contributions. And then we develop our self-esteem and confidence. And once you get all of those together, then you can be a thriving individual in your life. And this extends throughout, human behavior. So Coast Guard Mutual Assistance exists because we know, and we saw this during the 2019 government shutdown, when the Coast Guard members did not get paid. We saw that as soon as people were concerned about their food, about their shelter, about their rent, or paying their mortgage, their minds immediately went to, how am I going to satiate those needs? So I was the XO of Cutter Eagle at the time. We were preparing to sail across the Atlantic Ocean, and I had members, hoisting new sails up 140 feet up, and these people were concerned about, how am I going to pay my rent? Super dangerous situation, right? We want them to focus on the mission. And in 2019, Coast Guard Mutual Assistance came in big time, and we provided payroll loans. I think we distributed about $8 million in about 3 weeks to help people get through that time. And right now, CGMA is postured that we can provide the entire Coast Guard active duty workforce with housing allowance in the event of another government shutdown. Our CFO has been able to liquidate assets if need be. Also, just for your awareness, if that ever happens again, USAA, First Command, and Navy Federal will also give you a 0% interest for whatever pay you get that month. So that's how we're able to do it, because of those partnerships. So we provide support in 3 different buckets. And I have highlighted I put in bold the different programs that auxiliaries are eligible for. So for disaster and emergency relief, basic living expenses, car and home repairs, and actually during the Hurricane Helene, we did provide support to auxiliary in D7 for home repair. Day-to-day support. We provide Coast Guard members with PCS child care grants or loans, special needs grants. Your auxiliary members they can get adoption assistance, either a grant or a loan. Elder care loans, we provide that. Medical and dental loans, things that are not covered by insurance, we can support those. And I also want to point out, in this list, there's non-rate uniform loans. And having a conversation with the D7 Commodore, good to see you again, he suggested that one way we can increase access for auxiliary members is to provide a grant or a loan to auxiliary for new uniforms. And currently, my board of directors, the management committee, is reviewing it. I think we should have a decision on that in the next few weeks. And I think we're going to get to yes. So I'll stay posted, and we'll socialize that. That way, if you have a new member, I know sometimes it's expensive to buy a new kit of uniforms, we will provide that in a loan or a grant. Educational assistance. One of our most popular programs is the Supplemental Education Grant, which auxiliary are eligible for, and also a debt management loan. So I think I'll talk about the debt management loan in a minute. I'm going to just keep going here. We have some of this, where there's over 40 programs online, and it can get overwhelming and what you might need or what your members might need. So we have created an AI tool on our website where you can click on that red button and it says describe your need. It'll take you to this text box, and so in this case it says, I am an auxiliarist and need help with home repairs. And you hit go, and it'll take you to the applicable programs that someone can apply for. And then it gives you more information. So in this case, I can't read that, but I think it says up to $8,000 or so, $9,000 in home repairs, we can give a grant or a loan. And everyone's different. What I would suggest is, if there's ever a need at your unit, give us a call, because sometimes things don't fit into cookie-cutter programs, but we do try to get to yes all the time. So give us a call if you're having trouble with our website or with the local Coast Guard Mutual Assistance rep. Everything is online, though. You can start an online application, so we're trying to increase access. You just need to include a username and password, create an account. And then typically the application timeline is once the member uploads the necessary information into our portal, the local Coast Guard Mutual Assistance rep, which we have over 600 across the country, and you can find them on our website, but it'll go to them, they'll look at it, review it, approve it, and then you typically get funds within a couple hours to a couple days, depending on the level of review. And it's all electronic funds transfers, completely transparent. Once again, you can find your local representative through our website. That's a link on the top right. So here's our spending so far this year. This is actually a little dated. This is from mid-July. But it looks like so far we've given out about $5 million in loans this year and over $1 million in grants. And although it's small to see, the major buckets that we provided support for is the rental assistance loan, the basic living expenses program, and then the debt management loan. And the debt management loan is our the program that's growing the most right now. The Coast Guard, about, I think, several years ago, in order to bring in new recruits, the debt-to-income ratio was 30%. But from what I understand, in order to increase recruitment, they changed the debt-to-income ratio to 80%. So we have a lot more people coming into our Coast Guard, especially junior members, who have some debt, right? They have some challenges with credit. And since the 90s, we've had a program to help people get through those times. And so if you have even auxiliary members, this is a program that's eligible for auxiliary. If there are people in your command or people you know of who need support with debt management, have them call our office, talk to the rep, but we can get them back on track so they don't go down a rabbit hole there. Our giving breakdown for 2024. Last year, we gave out $8.5 million in total support. That's direct support to individual Coast Guard members, including the auxiliary. It was actually over $3 million in grants. So we supported 5,000 active duty clients and 61 auxiliary clients. And I imagine as we talk more about what CGMA is to the auxiliary, I think that number is going to go up, because I think we'll see more auxiliary members who understand their benefits and they can apply. And I encourage you to tell them, we're here for you. The largest grant we gave last year was to an E5 member. He was BM2, had just reported a Station San Key about 2 days before Hurricane Helene came through. He had moved his household goods into his new home. It's like a single-level ranch. And because of a named storm, he was not able to get renter's insurance. Because if there's a named storm and you have to get car insurance or house insurance, guess what? They're not going to give it to you. So he had no insurance once that delivery was made of his household goods. The next day he had to evacuate, and when he came back, he noticed he had 6 feet of flooding in his house and a sewage backup. And this E5 is probably 24 years old, 25 years old, brand new wife, brand new baby, and they lost everything. And so the command master chief called us and said, hey, what can you do? And I said, I had just read the last 100 years of board of director meeting minutes, and I knew that we have done some significant grant and support in the past. I said, send it. Let's see what we can do. And so that level of request has to go through multiple levels of review, and then it finally gets approved through the board of directors at large, and they said, absolutely, let's do it. And so we were able to give that gentleman a $24,000 grant so that he could, rebuild his life, because the Coast Guard would never have helped him with that. We're just legally not allowed to, so that's why CGMA exists. And so we can do that at scope and scale, which is incredible. And I don't want to give CGMA the credit for this, because you'll see in another slide that it is all us. It's mutual, right? We're all in this together, and we just collect the money. So CGMA is for us, by us. We're 100% funded by donations. and your donations support grants. We can give out loans all day long because back in 2019, USAA gave us a gift of $15 million. That is a gift that is only good for loans, however, so we can give out loans all day long. So if anybody needs a loan, that's great. Grants need a little bit more review, but typically giving a loan to a service member or auxiliarist is a very low-risk business transaction for us. Here's our revenue stream. So last year we made $3.5 million in donations. And just keep that in mind. We made $3.5 million in donations, but we gave out $8.5 million in support to the Coast Guard. $3 million that we provided to the Coast Guard was in grants. But anyways, this is what our giving breakdown is. So you'll see on this pie chart, it's a little small for you, but about 60% of the revenue we get every year comes from the community we serve. So that's your active duty members who donate typically via allotment $5 a month, or a retired member who might give us $5 a month, or a significant other portion. Auxiliary members contributed to 4% last year. So 4% of $3 million, that's about $150,000, I think. So thank you, auxiliarists who support CGMA. If you remember the slide that was earlier, we gave about $150,000 in support to auxiliarists. So it's that's pretty equal. Thank you. But we definitely, we don't have a lot of corporate contributions, and one of our challenges, because we have a board of directors that is very much a base of federal employees, we do have some challenges when it comes to fundraising. So we do, we are very, we like the donations from our active duty retirees, civilian employee workforce. The allotments really mean a lot to us. So how can you support CGMA? Well, you can donate, obviously. You can also host a fundraiser. So we have an annual campaign every April and May where we generate the majority of our money that is our revenue for the year. This year we made $1.7 million, which is great. But we can certainly would love it if auxiliary want to host a fundraiser in support of CGMA. That would be amazing, and you can talk to Valerie Stanley about that. Also, you can join our ambassador program. Valerie Stanley is our lead for that. She's here today, and she's been here the last couple of days. But she will train you and become an ambassador to talk about who we are, what we do, why we do it, right? Which would be wonderful. And then you can tell others about us. So follow us on LinkedIn, check us out on Instagram or on Facebook. We do post a lot of information in those spaces and updates through those methods. So I'm going to stop here. I'll take a question or two if you have one. Yes, sir. Thanks. So the question was, can auxiliaries do monthly donations? Yes, you can do it through setting up like a recurring credit card donation. That's something you could certainly do. What the active duty retirees and civilian employees can do, since they get that federal paycheck, they can set up the allotment. But reservists can't do that at this moment, and clearly auxiliary can't either, unless you're retired. Other questions? Oh, I also want to just add one more thing. So as Admiral Arguin said, the Coast Guard is growing by 30% of its workforce, and so too must Coast Guard Mutual Census grow our revenue by 30% so we can support the new members coming in. And we do have a plan for that, so it's going to be exciting. But I am just, we're here for you, we're here for the Coast Guard, and we're just so thankful for all that you do. At the Coast Guard Academy yesterday, I started my speech with, why do you serve? Why did you join the Coast Guard? And I cold called 5 different cadets in the crowd. And every single one of them was to serve others, to serve my country, to give back. I love my country. And not a single one of them said it. I did it for the free education, or I did it for a job. I mean, they really are all about serving. And I just am so thankful that I'm among people who are just willing to donate their time and energy to support our nation and do what you can to make things better. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Great information and presentation, Brooke. Thank you so much for joining us and your team and all you do. We will now hear a partner agency update with Civil Air Patrol from Commodore Peter Jensen.
Good morning. Well, as most of you know, the United States has not one, but two civilian armed forces auxiliaries. Aside from our own Coast Guard auxiliary, the Air Force has an auxiliary too. It is better known as the Civil Air Patrol. The Civil Air Patrol, or CAP. This was founded on December 1st, 1941, just days before our nation's entry into World War II. Like our own auxiliary, CAP performed heroically during the war. They're most remembered for their role in hunting German U-boats. Usually unarmed, the small CAP airplanes could and did bring the U-boats a great deal of unwanted attention from Navy destroyers and anti-submarine aircraft. CAP aircraft armed with bombs scored 2 confirmed U-boat kills. The modern CAP is organized in a manner not dissimilar to our own auxiliary. 8 geographic regions oversee the 52 wings, 50 of which correspond to U.S. states, plus the Puerto Rico wing and the National Capital Wing. Today's CAP has 3 broad missions. They are emergency services, cadet programs, and aerospace education. Regrettably, our nation's 2 auxiliaries labored too far apart for too long a time. Fortunately, the current senior leadership on both sides are seeking a closer working relationship. So what steps have been taken so far? CAP has a wonderful resource in the form of their cadet program. While many cadets seek the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, many others seek alternatives. Since the auxiliary is charged with supporting the Coast Guard Academy, it falls to us to keep New London in the thoughts of CAP's cadets, in addition to West Point and Annapolis. We've sent Academy admissions partners to 18 CAP wing conferences in the past 9 months, and they've been well received. Another 4 wings have committed to having partners aboard for their conferences: New York, Massachusetts, California, and Pennsylvania. Now, many cadets cannot make it to their wing conferences, and it's often not easy to get partners out to the more remote conference venues. So with the concurrence of the Academy's admissions office, we decided to target the elite of the cadet program, their cadet officers. These young people are excellent candidates for the Coast Guard Academy. They're squared away, academically bright, physically fit, and have impressive leadership experience. We created an announcement tailored to each CAP wing aimed at all of their cadet officers. This approach meant getting the full cooperation of CAP's 52 wing commanders and accomplishing this before the Academy's admission season starts next month. So at CAP's big national meeting in Atlanta just last week, a lot of hands were shaken, a lot of one-on-one pitches were delivered, and a lot of challenge coins were handed out. And it worked. Every wing commander agreed to get the word out to their cadet officers right away, and that is happening now. CAP is a lot larger than we are. There are about 37,000 adult members and about 32,000 cadets. CAP owns about 550 modern high-wing aircraft. Aside from their work with cadet flight familiarization and operations training, CAP undertakes an impressive array of Air Force taskings. I should also mention CAP's maritime surface assets, and here they are. Yeah, nothing to see here. In fact, CAP is forbidden under its own regulation to do anything with boats. Looks like a good opportunity for the auxiliary for joint training and operations. Such cooperation could take many forms. In those parts of our country with no aux-air coverage, District Arctic and District Northwest come to mind, a joint air surface response could involve CAP aircraft and auxiliary vessels. In other areas with strong aux-air coverage, a joint air surface response could involve our own aircraft and CAP aircraft working together. Other permutations could include the addition of a land response component involving the deployment of CAP ground teams. Joint operations would require the drafting of a new letter of intent LOI for short, and final concurrence on both sides. And we have progress. A draft LOI has already cleared the NEXCOM and is now under review with Coast Guard Legal. In short, good things are happening between us and our sister auxiliary. Stay tuned, more to come. Thank you.
That was
No, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Commodore Jensen. We are going to take a quick break before we come back in and start the next part of the program. So let's take 10 minutes.
Sounds good.
How many? We are going to get started in about 2 minutes, so start walking towards your seats, please. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started back. Please take your seats. I have another pack if you need them.
All right, thank you for getting back. I hope you noticed we brought some snacks down. Don't tell the hotel. We brought some snacks down over there. There's a little bit left over there. Okay, Ms. Kelly, will you take it away?
All right, welcome back. We are now going to call up Lieutenant Kelly Richters and ask Commodore Kirkwood, Admiral Arguin, Captain Schmadeke to come to the front for a awards presentation. I'd also like to call up Commodore Klasick to the front.
Captain Koch, please join the front. District Director of Auxiliary, DIROC's DPA of the Year, Captain Stephen A. Koch, led auxiliary administration and operations across the southern and northern regions of the 1st District by supporting over 4,400 members, 289,000 auxiliary mission hours, and 255 surface and 16 air assets. He launched the district's first auxiliary paddlecraft AUXPAD ashore program, expanded Coast Guard officer commissioning pipelines through the Auxiliary University program, resulting in 11 new Coast Guard officer accessions, and organized an auxiliary district training D-Train event that delivered 37 training topics to over 350 auxiliary. Congratulations on winning this award.
Congratulations. And you're up next when you get up there.
All right. We are wrapping up this year's NTS board meeting. Before we call for a motion to adjourn, is there any additional business that needs to be brought before the board? Hearing none. As we conclude the national board meeting, I want to extend my sincere appreciation for the thoughtful dialogue, the candid insights, and the shared commitment each of you have brought to the table. The strength of our auxiliary and our ability to serve alongside the United States Coast Guard rests on the dedication and vision of leaders like you. This meeting has reinforced not only the importance of the decisions we make here, but also the responsibility as we carry as stewards of our mission. Together, we have addressed challenges, charted priorities, identified opportunities that will shape the months and years ahead. Let us leave here with a renewed sense of purpose, united in our efforts to support the Coast Guard, serve our communities, and uphold the highest traditions of the auxiliary. The work does not end with this adjournment. It continues with each of us as we return to our districts, divisions, and flotillas. Mrs. Chrysalis, do you have any
Announcements?
announcements?
I do. All right. I'm sure you have all, by this time, gotten your tax exempt form, and that is taken care of. If you haven't gotten your registration packet, last chance to do that. That does have a receipt in it for this week's events, so make sure you have that. The NAC lunch will be at 11:30, and that is going to be in Cardinal A, so if you reserved a spot for that, that will be where lunch is. Dinner tickets tonight, make sure you have that. That is going to tell the servers what you are eating. So you have a ticket that will go in front of your place setting. When you check out tomorrow, make sure you get your full receipt. Don't just get the one that comes under the door because that doesn't show your zero balance. You'll need the full receipt from checking out in order to do your travel claim. And speaking of travel claims, make sure you have that submitted within 30 days, please. That's all I have. Dinner tonight is in this room.
All right.
3 days. No, I mean, within 30 days, but yes. 3 days is great. We'll go with it.
30 days the outside, of course.
Yeah.
Sooner would be great. So again, I want to thank you all personally for being here. I've had a heck of a time this week. I've been to so many different groups that have been doing such incredible work, making decisions, in enforcing our programs that our members at the deck plate use every single day as they work for the Coast Guard Auxiliary, the Coast Guard, and our nation. So thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting of the National Board. All right, we've got Noreen, seconded by DCO 1 North, which is now Northeast. There you go, Northeastern. All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye, aye. All those opposed? All right. I now adjourn our meeting. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.